Hello everyone and good afternoon. I'm Eric Netland and I'd like to invite you to a rousing discussion with Bob Friedstand and a behind-the-scenes look at the Memphis Pink Palace Museum's IMAX projection system, as well as a glimpse of movie special effects as created by our esteemed guest. Mr. Friedstand is the controller of the IMAX projector of the Pink Palace Museum and one-time special effects artist, having worked on both big-budgeted films and local movies in the Memphis area, and was gracious enough to speak with us about his experiences. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What made you want to go into the special effects and film industry?
Well, as long as I can remember, I was interested in special effects. When I was a little kid, I kind of got introduced to films like the films of Ray Harryhausen and King Kong, you know. And I don't know, it was just something that fascinated me about those, and makeup too, just monsters, science fiction, you know. So, and it just led into an urge to know how they did those things. And of course, back then in the 50s, the information on how things were done was pretty hard to get. And unless you were in, you know, Los Angeles or somewhere, but not in Memphis. So, you know, you'd kind of, I experimented with 8mm film and clay, animating clay and stuff like that, which I think is pretty common for most people that are interested. And in the 60s, there were some books that came out that revealed a lot of the techniques. So it really hooked me then, you know. So, you know, it was just natural. It wasn't my fault.
What is your role at the Pink Palace IMAX Theater?
I'm officially the Chief IMAX Technician, which is actually Chief Projectionist, kind of in charge of the projector, the operation, the maintenance of it. We've trained a few people along the way, and also, you know, deal with presentation, which involves some PowerPoint pre-shows. So we have to kind of keep that up to date. It kind of tells about some of the things that are happening at the museum and upcoming movies and things like that, and just events. And so, yeah.
Do you prefer IMAX films over the silver screen? Do you like them both?
Yeah, well, you know, it's amazing how incredible the conventional films, the quality with the digital projection has come. I mean, you know, when I see a movie at like the Paradiso, which is all digital, I mean that it's just pristine. I mean, it's sharp and the colors are great. But IMAX is still, you know, ahead of the game with the quality. And of course, what we show here are educational films. We don't show any of the IMAX feature films, and of course, this is going to be going digital pretty soon too. They're already, you know, looking at digital equipment. So, but the IMAX experience with the giant screen and filling your field of vision is really hard to beat. Yeah.
So visitors can peer into the projection booth and see the complicated IMAX machinery. Was learning how to operate all this a real challenge?
Well, it wasn't too difficult. There were, when I came to work here, there were two people that had already had the experience, and they're able to train me. It's not difficult to learn basically how to load up the machine and everything. What takes a little more time is building up enough confidence, because, you know, you're worried about ruining a piece of film. These film prints are $25,000 prints. They're so you're kind of nervous about that, and you're also nervous about making a mistake that delays the show. You know, so you got people sitting in there waiting, and so that's what takes a little more time. I mean, you learn the operation of the machine pretty quickly, but the confidence, getting rid of the nerves, yeah. Which still happens, you know.
Could you give the audience a little inside information on how to operate all this machinery?
Sure. You know, you mean from loading up the machine, or just yeah, and maybe you can get some B-roll of this. Yeah, the loading up the film, it takes me about 2.5 minutes to get it loaded, you know, you'll see there's a bunch of rollers and things that you have to do it exactly right. You have to load it up just right so that it projects properly on the screen. And once the projector is loaded, let's see, about 5 minutes before the show time, we start our little pre-show, which is a PowerPoint, PowerPoint presentation that just again talks about all the things that are happening at the museum, and then when that finishes up, right before the show starts, we have a host that goes down and actually makes an announcement to the audience. And as soon as the host is finished, and they tell the audience just a few things to be aware of, because in case anybody hasn't seen an IMAX movie, you always like people to know that they may get a little feeling of motion or something, And anyway, as soon as the host is finished, then we on the PowerPoint also is the sponsor of our theater is a company called Crew Training International, and there's a little video from the president of that company that happens that just a minute or so, and then at the appropriate moment the start button is pressed, and hopefully the film was loaded properly, and it comes on the screen, and then it runs, and then it ends, and then you stop it, and then you turn on the lights. Oh, I forgot to mention, you got to turn the lights off in the theater. That's important.
So what has been your favorite IMAX film here at the Pink Palace?
My favorite of all time has been The Living Sea. It was one of one of the first. It was within the first couple of years and it's made by a company called McGillivray Freeman, and they are really they have produced the best IMAX films. They're just one of the best. They just know how to do an incredible documentary. And it's narrated by Meryl Streep, and there's music by Sting in it, and it's just beautiful. It's just, it's all about the ocean and living on the ocean and in it and around it. It's really beautiful. That really has remained my favorite,
So you've worked on in special effects on Star Trek, the motion picture, and a music video by ZZ Top. Could you describe some of your experiences with those?
Oh yeah, well the Star Trek thing happened around 1977. I decided I wanted to try to move to LA, and I had worked for a company here in Memphis, Motion Picture Laboratories, which was a full service motion picture lab that had an optical printer, and an optical printers for film was the device that composited films, pieces of film together to do special effects. And so I got an experience there. So I moved out to LA, and it was right after Star Wars, so there was some need for people with that experience. So I was able to work for a while, and they were looking around '78. They were looking for people to help out on Star Trek, the motion picture. So I got a job there, and that was incredible because the company that was doing it was Doug Trumbull's company, and they had just done Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so there were all these people still there that I had read about, and it was just a real privilege to work with some of these people, and so that was great. And then I did move back to Memphis for a while, and Roxy G, you might know Roxy. There was a student in her class, I think he was a graduate student at that class, that was going to produce a feature film through the university, and called I Was a Zombie for the FBI. And So Roxy knew that he wanted to include a creature sequence at the end of the movie, and Roxy knew that I had experience with that, so she got us together, and I did this. I built and animated this stop motion creature for I was designed for the FBI, and in the midst of that, Marius Pensner, who was the director, the student I was talking about, went to Ardent Teleproductions, and they were doing the ZZ Top TV Dinners music video, and he decided he wanted that same little creature to be in the video, to come up out of the TV dinner. So it was the same little creature, but yeah. So that was actually, I don't know, that may have been the first stop motion to ever be done on videotape. We actually shot it, like edited frame by frame, the movements at Ardent. So it was kind of cool. It was nice. And I never got to meet ZZ Top, and I did get one of the little key rings though. And that's all right.
From your point of view, how has special effects changed since the original Star Trek movie?
Wow. Well, when I did Star Trek, the computer was just kind of entering into it, and really all they were used for were to move cameras around to do accurate repeating moves on cameras, but there were no images being made by computers. So, and one of the reasons I moved back to Memphis was because that transition was starting to happen in Los Angeles. The film was starting to, the film work was starting to go the way of the electronic imaging. And so I got back to Memphis to get into video corporate. I worked for corporate video departments to just get a video experience. But that's what's changed everything. The computer now that's what everything is done on the computer, and so it's just a totally different way of doing things. And I've adapted a little bit to it, but it's kind of a hobby with me now, the computer animation and computer compositing and stuff. It's real interesting. I'm still very much interested in it, but the schools are churning out people. When I got into it, there were very few people that knew anything about the special effects area, photographic effects, and now it's just like a regular. People were born knowing how to do it. I don't understand. They know how to do it. These kids, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that's the change. It's amazing, but I think it's changed for the better because the images are so amazing. I mean, you can't detect. If you watch the Sci-Fi Channel, you can detect how bad. You can see some bad animation, but there's just amazing things to me. So I'm real happy with it. I mean, there's a nostalgia for the old ways of doing things.
Speaking of nostalgia, with the Star Trek series franchise getting a reboot in these past few years, are you feeling any nostalgia for your work on the original Star Trek film?
Well, yeah, I wasn't a big Star Trek fan, but I mean, just being part of a big major feature film, and it was so special. I mean, Star Trek was there were so many fans of Star Trek, and to see all this cast and crew back together again, it really made it more special to be part of that. So yeah. I mean, I'm glad to see that it's continued and everything. Yeah. But they don't call me. They never call.
Do you prefer working on big budgeted films or music videos or both?
Well, I mean, if somebody asked me to, yeah. Again, the visual effects aspect of films today, even with straight dramas and things, they are all using visual effects in some way that maybe they're just invisible. You don't even notice it, just with set extensions and just things that you can do now to enhance or correct things in a shot that I mean, it's all. I enjoyed working on a couple of music. I've worked on another music video in the computer era, and I mean, just the fact that you kind of free in the music video kind of genre to do a lot of just real interesting and amazing looking imagery is fun for me. You know, that's kind of what I enjoy.
Of all the different films and projects you've worked on, what has been the most rewarding to you?
Financially? No. I would say that really doing the stop motion work on Zombie and the ZZ Top projects were really the most rewarding, because I mean, it was kind of like it was I had to come up with all the ways of doing things, and it was just kind of I had some help with the animation, but it was really just me doing it, you know. So it was that I think was more, you know, I enjoyed that the feeling of satisfaction more with those projects, because it was kind of up to me to do it all.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day
I
to
really enjoyed it.
talk with us and provide some really fun information for our audience. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, that is all of the questions and time we have for folks. We would like to thank Mr. Friedstand for his time this afternoon, and the Pink Palace, as well as the director of the IMAX division, who was so kind as to let us film here. Please be sure to visit memphismuseums.org to learn more about the Pink Palace Museum and to find showtimes for your favorite IMAX films. A single IMAX adult ticket is $8.25, which is cheaper than Malco. The next time you are in an IMAX experience, don't forget to look up and thank Bob, without whom the film would still be lying flat on the spool.